Hello, my name is Dylan. I'm here at the embroidery warehouse, and today I'm going to show you how to take off a head for a multi-head butterfly embroidery machine, as well as replacing the reciprocator for that. I'm going to go over the tools that we're going to need to use and go through it step by step. That way you can do it too. Now, this machine has not been set up yet, but this will be a perfect opportunity to show you the insides and how this machine works with the head and its main shaft. So first I'll start off with using a Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to be removing the bolts here and here, excuse me. And this is your take-up lever guard. This does help you stay a little bit safer when it comes to these take-up levers moving so quickly up and down. Now I'll just set this to the side. Next, some people may forget to double check this, but there is a connection on the back of this head for the thread brake sensor, as well as for the switch. So we'll want to disconnect those, and then usually I start with a 3mm Allen here on these 4 screws, and also remove the back, and then we'll remove the whole unit while unplugging the cards at the same time. All right, now at the back of the head, we have the cover, which we'll just press down and then out, and it just slides out like that. Now, what I like to do with electronics is take a picture. So I'll go ahead and do that now of the connections that we're going to be removing. In this case, it'll be the ones that are coming from the machine. So we have 3 here, 1, 2, and 3. All right, so 1, 2, 3. This one's going to be a little bit tougher. It doesn't have a clip that you have to pinch and then pull. It's just really wedged in there. So be cautious when removing it and not to overstretch the board and pull out too hard. So now that we have the head clear, I'll go back around and we'll take this front unit off, and then we'll remove the whole head. Now we're back at the front. We're going to be removing these 4 Allen keys. They are number 3. The last one here, you'll kind of want to put your arm on it to hold it steady, or your tool as well. And basically, I just keep my hand on it like this, kind of let the screw come out with it, and that's how you remove it. So these 4 screw holes are what anchor that top part to the head. The next part here, we're going to remove these covers from the side so we can fully access the whole head. So this will be just 3 Phillips screws, maybe 4. I will say, if you have the silver start-stop buttons, you can also, for this removal, unscrew the outer shell like so, and then you'll just pull, and keep in mind which ones stop and which ones start, and you can just pull like so, and it pops that button out. Now, without the collar, you can see how the button fits, and we're just doing this so we can remove this plate and we can expose both brackets of the head. I wanted to add on the back side, we're going to remove with a number 3 as well, this screw and this screw from the back of these mounts for the wire cluster, if you have this type of plastic housing to hold the wire cluster. You can see here I have removed those screws, so that will allow me to just set these over to the side. You can clip the zip ties if needed to just free the wires completely. If you got a little clamp or even some leftover string, you can just set this to the side. All right, now we're going to work our way to taking this panel off. We have those button covers off. We have the back of our wiring harness removed from the head. And your buttons, you just kind of push them out like so. Some a little stuck in there. There we go. So now we can move this whole wire harness just over to a safer area. Out of our way, pretty much. So now we're gonna work our way to number 3 Allen key again. Now, if you have a T-handle or a really stout Allen key, this will be useful for this one because the factory does put these screws on pretty tight. So for mine, I believe my little stout one here, just for leverage. Now we'll loose all these screws here. And I kind of set all my screws up the type of way. Everyone has their own way. I just like to keep them in order that I take them out. So when I'm just going back, I can just put them back as I go. So same advice for that front plate like I was talking about up here, you want to do for the head here. And I will show a few different angles on how to take this head off because it can be a few different things you have to focus on just to make sure you get it just right. As I take this head off, pay attention to the needle you're on. I like to put it on 15 just so I have a lot of room over here on my left side and leverage here. So when I lift this up, I'm going to be lifting up over this take up lever that's located here. It fits in these take up arms like this. So when you lift up, you're going to lift up and out like that. So when I lift up, back towards me, down a little bit to clear down here. This is what holds the head close to the machine near the bottom, and it rides along the bar here. So it's really important when you're putting it back on, and I'll go over this when I do, just to keep a eye on this part here and making sure this cohesively lays flush with everything. All right, so here's the front of your head without the head on, the head of the mechanical part of the machine. So this is going to be your reciprocator. And as your needle gets moved up and down, this part is what holds it and moves your needle up and down. Now, if you strike a hoop or the machine really hits into some hard things, this is designed to shear off to allow your machine to go through that cycle, but not harm the more important mechanical aspects of your machine. So there might be adjustment for take up a lever, but that's not as common as the reciprocator braking because it's designed to brake. So this part here is what usually breaks. Now, there are different ways to go about it. If you're with Butterfly, you can just order the reciprocator fully. Other people, they're able to buy just this part and replace it if there's no other damage to the structure of the whole reciprocator. And basically from there, they're kind of universal when it comes to certain types. Now, the type that you'll be using, there should be one that comes with your toolbox, or should be at least enough to replace one from each head from your toolbox. And this is the type of reciprocator that's with the Butterfly multi-heads. Now for the machine and replacing it. So we're going to need a number 2 Allen key, and this is going to go into a small hole right here on the left side. You can see the silver opening for it on the bottom left side of your head. And what this is a set screw to hold this reciprocator shaft completely. Now you're probably going to need other connections that you might have to loosen, and we'll go over those as we progress. But basically we're going to have some here, and I believe at the top as well, so we can slide this whole bar all the way up, and then this will be able to be released from the internals, and then we can replace it with the new one and put it back together. All right, so we'll go ahead and remove this set screw. Not fully. I do about like 3 or so turns until I can get actual movement from the shaft here. You can see I can spin it around. And basically, we're gonna have to take off this set screw here as well, and this one. All right, with this loosened, I can now bring this up, and what I do sometimes is I get a bigger Allen key, and there's actually a hole just underneath where the shaft is at, and you can pop it up over at the top here. Let me adjust this, kind of see where the wick is at, and I'll just guide it up. Now there is going to be a little bit of wick over here tucked in. I like to just fully pull it out because it does lead to your reservoir system. So I'll just push from the base up. Get a small one here, it's a little flathead. Up. And I can pull from the top. Now, sorry for the shakiness. These tools, or excuse me, these parts are set in by a few different ways. These are arms for these cams in the back that can shift in and out from each other. So for the reciprocator, we're going to be doing the same thing. Now you can see, I can set this to the side. The reciprocator is this one. So there is one here and then one here. So you can kind of see how when I take these out, they can slide like so, back and forth. So we're going to be doing that up here. Now, there are going to be parts that are going to be loose and free, so you want to set them aside. First, this roller bearing for the bottom of the head. At the top, there was some felt. Now, there is a little bit of grease inside, so if your felt, like mine, gets a little greasy, be sure to clean it and allow it to exchange oil. That's the goal for these. So with the shaft removed, I went ahead and removed the plate here and the plate that's located here. Phillips flathead. Not sure why they chose that, but that's how they make it. So what we're going to be doing next is just inspecting and identifying what we're working with here. So we have a reciprocator, we have a connection here, connection back here, connected to the reciprocator there, right there, and then we have a connection down here connected to the same thing. So to make it easier, we're going to be removing a screw that is located on the back left side, and that screw is located just in here. I'll try to get the best angle possible, but can't really get this camera in there. So what we have is a 2.5, same screw size here, and we're going to loosen that. And what we're going to be doing is sliding this bar to the left, and you can see what happens next on the inside. You can see my Allen key leading into that hole, and where it's leading to. If I can get this guy out of the way. You can see this screw back here leading out. That's that 2 millimeter, 2.5. And we'll loosen that. And now I can take this screw. I got that out. There's a little washer with it. Now I'll be moving the mechanism that holds back here to the left. Okay, with this screw loose, we're gonna have movement of this main bar that's holding this piece and this piece. I found it easier if I move this up and slide to the right on this, it'll come out. Now keep in mind, if you can see that there's a little tiny washer right there. You want to make sure that's there. If it's not there, it's most likely falling here or behind this black piece of plastic that's a guide for the up and down. This is pretty important just to make sure you have all your parts here, just because they help oil and help the parts move together with less friction. So this part removed, this is that lower guide. I'm going to get a little flathead here and work my way through the top here. You can kind of see where I'm going. I'm going right back here to that. So if I go, work my way through. I kind of find it, if I wiggle and push, it gets a little bit easier. And then you can see I got it free just right there. I could zoom in more and see. You see I'm free. This was here, and I've pushed it out. Now, you can tell it's not totally off, and I've left it just sitting here. The reciprocator is now free with the lower and the upper. So all I have to do now is move it to the left. And I have it free. Check for the washers. See, there's one there. Make sure I get that, and we'll put it onto the new one. So we have the old one here and the new one here. A little side-by-side comparison. Sometimes you might get a different reciprocator if you buy third party. You want to make sure it matches all the way around, because each little indentation and curvature and everything like that has a function for that model of machine. Now you can tell, I can tell, this one was modified. You can kind of see the indentions here in comparison to this one. So this one might work, it might not, so we'll just double check. All right, after that double check, I did get my washers from the old one onto the new one here. I'm gonna lift this lever, which can also slide off, as you can see. So you wanna make sure you keep them intact. Slide this one on like so. That one's engaged. Now I'll raise this up, get this to where I can put the other one in. And sliding it on is a little bit easier because everything's just meant to slide into each other like that. Now, since I have this free, the reciprocator is going to go on, if you can tell, there's two connections here. The reciprocator is going to go on this far back connection that my finger's on. So I'll try to adjust that. Now, this is greasy and oily, so you'll definitely want to take your time on this and try not to basically just miss anything, especially those little washers like I had mentioned. So now I have that connected at the top. I'm going to actually use my finger and just push back that one larger piece back here. And what I'm going to do now is just connect that lower guide. Put this in. Now you can see I have the washer almost just barely. I still have the washer on this one. The other washer is actually a guide rail with grease and oil. So I found this piece, having it above this section of the head makes it a little bit easier to slide into its path. But you have to also move this at the same time up. And you kind of see it just slides back how it should. So now we got this piece in, this piece in. We got our washers for each little connection here. I am going to tighten that screw back up that we took off back here. And again, this one had the washer as well. So I got my tool here. I'm gonna just put it on the end and guide it in like this. So I'm looking right back here. There we go. Get a little peek in there. Just barely see that screw right here. Now I'm not gonna make this ridiculously tight, but just tight enough to where I'll double check back to it once I have everything else back together. But I gave it a good like tight as I can with my fingers here. Now, next part is we're gonna be putting the shaft back. Now when I'm putting the shaft in, you can see that the wick comes up through there. This is gonna be the top of the shaft where the wick will go in and feed through all these hole openings and holes to allow oil to spread throughout the moving parts. Now at the bottom, we do have a flat spot where we have that set screw all the way down here that we have set. And we're going to just basically push it back in. Now remember, we did have a few parts that we had to double check. So that would be that piece. I cleaned it up a little bit. It's pretty new, so it's not filled with dust. A little bit of grease is not going to kill it. This will go on top of the reciprocator here. Then we'll guide the shaft through all the way to the bottom, and that's where we will have that roller bearing. So I'm going to start that process and kind of just explain as I go. But I'm going to put it on the stand here so we don't have to have my camera action going on. So as I'm moving this, I'm twisting it to allow movement to not get caught, but also I'm adjusting these pieces to straighten it as it goes through so it can come out smoothly. And keep in mind of that flat spot here. We want it facing to the left directly so we can tighten the screw down here. All right, now the roller bearing, be careful, it is slippery. And it'll fly out of your fingers because it spins independently. So I'll gently set it in where it needs to go here. And keep in mind of those two set screws. I'll just line it up. I still have my flat side facing the left. And like I said before, we'll just kind of twist and push. Make sure our set screws haven't recessed back in. There we go. Now at the top, you want to make it pretty flush with the head right here. Not this silver part, but the white part of the metal cast of the head here. So about like that. I use my little tool here and just make it flush. And then I'll just gently tighten that just to hold it in place. I'll get my other size here and tighten that set screw. What we want to do is just find that flat point as we're tightening. So we do have it on that left side, but I just give it a little twist so I can make sure. If it slips, then you know you're not on it like so, if I can still twist it. But then you can kind of feel that flat side as it comes through. Now as I tighten this, like I said, I'll just get it about finger tight for now, and then we'll tighten everything else up. Since I've tightened this, I'm going to just undo my little set here. Make sure it's pretty flush. I'm not pushing down hard, just keeping my finger weight on it. And if this gets in the way, you're more than welcome to take this one off too. All right, now, before we move on, let's not forget to turn our alarms off. Set this wick back into the shaft here. So I'll just use like a little Allen, put it in where the pinch is, and just kind of jam it back in. Now I don't want to force and pinch everything, just kind of push it in, like let it go in like an old wick candle. Switch to a little smaller one here. Just like that. So now your reservoir will keep cycling this upwards and draining out into here. All right, now for our double checks, I'm gonna just make sure the screw back here is snug. All right, and then the one down here that holds your head. I'm gonna put these plates back on. Now remember, it was Phillips on the left and flathead on the right. No, I didn't want to go in. What I like to do when I'm putting these back together, I'll just kind of make it flush. Now I know the screws are tapered and they'll set. I'll just try to make it as flush as I can with the screws. Now, the other side. This one's a little tougher to get in there. That's why I chose a smaller screwdriver. Okay, that all looks pretty good. Everything's solid, as it should be. Next step is just putting the head back on, securing the head, securing the upper part, and then test running. Now, when putting the head on, remember, we're going to be focusing on clipping this metal bar here onto this lip. And then as I do that, the tricky part is these take-up levers need to cup over the take-up lever arm here at the top. So I'm going to make sure wires are out of the way. And what I do, everybody does this. Some people use rubber bands, but I hold the head like this with the take-up arms, kind of with all my fingers. And now I know we're on needle 15, so I'll start to the far left here, bring my head up. Kind of make sure everything falls into place. So what I do is a little tug at the bottom just to make sure it's connected down here like I had mentioned. Make sure we're on needle 15. Make sure that we line up with these holes that we can. And then get my screws. Let them kind of do the work for me as I set it back in. One, two, three, four. I give the head a nice little kind of jiggle here just to make sure everything's set on there as it should before I tighten everything down. Now you don't want to tighten them so much to where they strip. Just, you know, a good snug, tight feeling. Kind of clean everything up, just make it look nice. Clean workspace is always a show of craftsmanship, I think. Now, we're going to go to the back of the head. We're going to reconnect that wire cluster, move the plugs back to where they should be, and reconnect that top part. All right, now for the back part. We have different size screws here. So the 4 that we took off for the front of the head, they're about this size. It's hard to tell on camera compared to the others. A little bit shorter. We're going to use the shorter ones to go in the back. Put the wire harness back. Get these buttons out of the way. Flip our harness back over. Make sure all the wires are clear. And then we'll insert these screws. Before we tighten them down all the way, you might be able to tell by an indentation on the plastic, but you want to make sure they're at the right height, just so we make sure that the wires don't get caught when the head does a color change. Got one.
Yeah, well,
for me, it seems like they just pushed it up this way all the way. You don't need it so super tight, you just need it to where it's not going to move when it's embroidering. Now I'm going to replace the front. You're going to see the view on the other side here. I'm going to replace those 4 screws, the wire harness out of the way. Line up those. Now these are adjustable to line up those screws. They probably will move when you take the head off, so if it's not lined up, don't be afraid to rotate left or right and then kind of sway this back and forth. Don't be too rough though, because it can snap if you're just gonna yank it, you know, but just be safe and secure. You want your machine to run as long as you can. Now for the connections of the wire, we did 1, 2, 3. And remember I said to take a photo. So on mine, it's going to be the second blue one here, the 2 here. There is guides for these plugs. So if you look here, you can see this plastic on each end to help guide it in, so you have the right pins. Same with this. And then lastly, this plug down here, it only goes in one way. If you notice, it's flat on top and rounded off the bottom. There we go. Nice and snug. Remember, we had to push down and pull out. Well, we'll put in, then push down again. It pops right back on there. Center up our wires here. And that'll be that for the backside. So we're going to be reconnecting the plugs here. Remember I said to also remember which plug it is. You can't tell sometimes, so I'll kind of put it in place right here. There's a guide on each side of the head. Push it through. Push this one through. Oh, a little. Now these do have a little spacer here on the front. Slide that back. All right, now that I have the buttons in place, I'll put the metal securer on. And I'll press this, and it'll click in. And then I'll do the same for the other one.